Mōrena Day. Welcome to the regular live stream that we've been doing every weekday at 8:10. It is, of course, day 20, the 14th of April. I mean, I say of course, but as many of you have reminded me, it's quite difficult to actually follow the passage of days unless you have an active calendar and are marking those off. But I can guarantee you that today is day 20 of our Alert Level 4 lockdown, of our nationwide rāhui to protect all of us from the effects of COVID-19, to squash and flatten the curve and to eliminate the virus from our country. Today is a Tuesday, which would normally see a number of parliamentarians across the country congregating on our parliament, but because we don't currently have our parliament sitting, we will be seeing the usual the parliamentary select committee on the epidemic response coming together. Mōrena to my friend and colleague Kiritapu Allen, who's just joined our live stream. She's one of the Labour members who is on that select committee. Mōrena as well to Logan, to Francesca. Abe is asking about what a new normal looks like. Abe, I'll touch base with you about that, absolutely. Atamari Simran. Today we also have launched a number of kind of support packages, I guess. They include apps for what is technically called now, one of the buzzwords is e-health or telehealth services to help support folks who, as we've talked about in previous lives, may be experiencing trouble and potentially reaching out to any of the usual helplines and or may potentially feel comfortable needing to try something on for size, something that works for them. So there are 3 different new services that have been launched this morning. Some of them are extensions of existing services, but they're all pretty exciting, and I'd love to know what you think of them if you do use them and try them on for size. The first one is, and I might get this wrong, I might get saying it wrong, I've only ever seen it in writing and emails back and forth. So my understanding of what it's called is Mentemia. Mentemia. Basically, it's an application produced by Legend, old mate who you would have seen potentially as I did growing up in the ads about the need to talk when you are experiencing depression or mental ill health, particularly as the so-called stoic Kiwi bloke. That is our All Blacks legend, Sir John Kirwan. Who is behind the development of this app. Basically, it serves as a way to kind of set goals and track progress. And it's the equivalent, because it is Sir John Kirwan, and he is so used to and grounded in the world of kind of coaching. It is essentially a mental health coach, a digital mental health coach that follows you by way of this app, tracks your progress, offers you hints and tips, and different ways to connect with a broader community as well, which I think can potentially be really useful if you are finding yourself having a bit of a difficult time during this period of physical isolation. Then we have extended the kind of work by Melon Health. Yes, Melon Health. And they were working with us on what you may know as the Picky Pilot, which is one of the projects that came to fruition under the Confidence and Supply Agreement between Labour and the Green Party to help provide free, accessible mental health services to 18 to 24-year-olds, a number of different services that work for people with different types of needs and different types of kind of requirements, whether it was peer support services or telehealth services or something more intense as a psychotherapist. They also developed an app, and this app is now kind of being extended and rolled out for all of us across the country. So in the next fortnight, you will also see a specialised support for 13 to 24-year-olds also being rolled out. I'll keep you across that and updated as well. And the third and final application or website or way to, method to support your mental health through these e-health services is a service called Staying on Track. And that is effectively a kind of journaling mechanism which serves to help you document and pay attention to the progress that you are making on your mental health journey. When I mention all of these, what are quite cool and innovative mental health programs, which you can access at the click of a button or the tap of a screen through your phone or on your laptop, I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of the stuff that really fundamentally matters. We know, for example, as was evidenced in, again, I continually refer to it in these lives I've found, but it's really grounded a lot of my thinking around well-being and mental health, is that the Mental Health and Addiction Inquiry from our government showcased that the two driving factors of mental ill health and addiction are isolation and trauma. And you're never going to address the fundamentals of poor mental health unless you address those two key things. So these apps are to serve as a guide or to plug a gap or to build a bridge or extend an olive branch, whatever kind of analogy you like. But they are not going to be able to fix the fundamentals. They may help guide you towards those kind of things, but we can't pretend to paper over the cracks and like we're just going to make mental health issues disappear for folks. So while I'd absolutely encourage utilizing these, if you are interested in exploring your mental health or figuring out new ways of dealing with things or coping or, how you expose yourself to, better coping mechanisms or whatever the case may be for you personally and individually, it is not going to make up for those kind of core fundamental things as envisioned on the likes of Maslow, that theorist's hierarchy of needs, right? The basics of warmth, shelter, and a place to call home, a place to sleep, to have security and privacy. Moving up from that, obviously, secure kai on the table, food in your belly, and then obviously something to hope for, opportunities in the future, whether that be in education or employment or amongst your whānau and friends, a project to work on. And then we can start to work on these kind of greater, grander schemes of self-actualization or intellectual enlightenment. So I just wanted to first and foremost acknowledge that these apps are awesome. Give them a road test. Let us know what you think. In the comments below, I'll link them so that you can try them on for size and see how they go for you. But they're never going to replace stuff like community, like basic human connection, and all of our needs as people. I've got a few comments coming through. Juniper saying, thanks for bringing up the actual causes of mental health. I mean, I think we all fundamentally kind of know them, right? And it's interesting that Sir John Kirwan, as the former All Black, has become a spokesperson for particularly the need to talk about depression in our country. And I've met John. He helped us launch the cross-party group on mental health and addiction response in Parliament only a few months ago, towards the end of last year. And, John speaks about being somebody who was supposedly at the top of his game, who supposedly had everything, and then found himself in this headspace of not feeling as though he was as grateful or as though he should be feeling, having access to all of this amazing stuff in his life, this opportunity, this supposed success. That is quite a different circumstance to what many people in the modern day, particularly younger people, particularly students, but also middle-aged and older folks, depending on your circumstances, can find ourselves in. If you're struggling to get by on the day-to-day, it's not that a plug-in kind of mental health app is going to all of a sudden fix all of those fundamental problems that are driving your stress, right? So it's important that we recognize the distinction between kind of better mental health and the causes of feeling not so great and stressed and frazzled and as though you're in a precarious situation all the time. The art today is by a guy called Chris. I have totally just forgotten his last name. Chris Connolly. Chris Connolly. I have put this up a few times in the back of these lives. For those of you who are only just tuning in for the first time, or however many times you've tuned, I don't know. I try to, with the very limited art that is available in this apartment, kind of circulate different bits and pieces behind myself. Chris Connolly's piece here is a bunch of different frames of plastic that he has drawn on at a bunch of different levels, so when you look at it up close it's really cool. And he produced that work for my 4-year-old friend Pia's art show about bats. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but it is a bat. And Pia, with her amazing mother Turamiki Harrington, fundraised some funds to send over to the bats who had their habitats completely fried during the Australian wildfires. So yeah, ka pai te tui, and to Pia and to Chris. Thank you for the conversations and initiatives that are beauty rising from the dark, Choi Wee. Absolutely tautoko that, and I think that we as a community have been doing some incredible work and coming together, and this is all of the kind of stuff that we need to continue to work on moving forward, right? As Paul Dyatt is saying in the comments as well, our community project in Littleton, where Pia, my mate P-Dog, the 4-year-old who created the show that Chris's work was at, our community project in Littleton is keen to help post-lockdown, and we are still set up. Is there any support for community? We want to provide tools, knowledge, support. Paul, if you touch base with me via email today, I'm getting back to a whole raft of those of you who have sent me emails over the Easter weekend, particularly those of you who have asked me for help or advice in terms of accessing certain services. I haven't been able to touch base with the government departments because everything kind of went into lockdown inception over the Easter weekend. Thomas saying as long as Mike King. Well, yes and no. I don't know if Thomas, for those of you who can't see it in the comments, is saying that as long as Mike King's around, telehealth is redundant. I think that it is really important that we have some really staunch figures who are able to speak to people's hearts and to inspire them by showcasing the kinds of things that people value and like about themselves. But I also think it's important to recognise that different supports work for different people at different times, and to kind of dismiss that somebody may just need to, get all of their thoughts out onto a page in the form of journaling, or may really actually benefit from a form of assistance around this kind of digital coach who helps you to organize or coordinate your life. It can be quite a myopic view to think that one size fits all. So I hear that that works for you, Thomas, but others might need different things. Andy Corson, my mate Andy, is saying, been marking off the days on the library door with a whiteboard marker. Yep, it is day 20. We are nearing the end of week 3, folks. Ka pai, Ali. Thank you very much. Mōrena, Alice. Guys, I will leave it at that, and I will be heading along to my usual 8:30 a.m. Caucus call for the Greens, and all of those who are commenting bits and pieces, I will respond to all of you later this morning. I hope that you are having a wonderful day. For those of you heading back to work today, working from home during this global pandemic, remember not to go too hard on yourselves, but also shout out to all of our incredible essential workers. I did see this morning that John Campbell at like 6 a.m. in the morning was saying that everybody who is awake right now was an essential worker. So that was obviously a respected, well-renowned kind of call-outs of appreciation to our parents in particular during this lockdown. Ka pai to all of you who are making this work as best as you can. So stay home, save lives, flatten that curve, and remember to be kind, especially to yourselves. I will drop some links in the comments below of how you can access those 3 services. Try them on for size, let me know how they work for you, but remember that none of that stuff is ever going to be able to replace the basics of a secure life life and a community. You're finding a community in these comments and in a bunch of different posts that I'm chucking up on the page. So we'll figure out how to continue galvanizing that moving forward, because I think it's been one of the more meaningful side effects or silver linings of this crisis is that we've all found each other. Hey, have a lovely time today, and we'll see you again at 8:10 tomorrow. Kia ora.